Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of superhero television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about the first season of the television series Obi-Wan.
I think it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think
It is Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're right. It is his legal name.
It is on the birth certificate that the Jedi Academy gave to him. Mm-hmm. I will admit, I also want to call it either Obi-Wan or Kenobi, and I never want to call it Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay. Yeah, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi. This isn't last week. This is no semi-casual Lightyear. You use his full legal name.
Now, do you mean old Ben Kenobi?
No, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That must be a different guy.
Old Ben Kenobi is just a different spinoff.
That's like 10 years later, right before episode 4.
I kind of want to see
Honestly?
old Ben Kenobi. Like, it is just a comedy, a totally different tone and energy. It is just old Ben Kenobi being like yelling at like the Raiders who are on his lawn, like, get off my lawn.
Yeah, because he wasn't even there to save Luke.
Yeah.
He was just, get off my lawn, guys.
Absolutely. So
yeah,
that's
old
what
Ben Kenobi.
Old Ben Kenobi is the show we all have been clamoring for.
And there's ghosts.
Oh, too many ghosts.
Oh, it's just a haunted cave. Now, we're not talking about old Ben Kenobi this week, though. We're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, we are. Yes, we're talking about the full season 1, series 1, the entirety of all of it, however you want to look at it. We're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi this week on the podcast. Since this is a new TV show, whenever we talk about new TV or film, then we always give a spoiler-free review. So in case you're on the fence about watching it or haven't finished it and just want to taste of the episode or whatever your reasons might be, we're going to give you a spoiler-free review. Then once you hear the theme song, once you hear that kick in, that's when we're going to get into the spoiler-filled section. So for now, let's start with the simple spoiler-free review. Diana, did you like it?
I really liked it. It's very close to a love. It's a really like. I will immediately off the top say I'm a little biased because I love Ewan McGregor and I love Obi-Wan and the prequels. I don't care if the prequels are bad. Ewan McGregor is in them. And so that makes them not bad. Ewan is incredible in this. All the other actors are incredible in this. There's no bad performance to be found. Child actors are good. Adult actors are good. All actors are good in this. The story, like Ewan's arc of Obi-Wan is incredible. The action's really fun. I would say it probably doesn't reach a like because I would say in 6 episodes, kind of not enough happens. It's one very straightforward story that's told quite well, but I'm like, we've been here for a bit. So it feels a little draggy in the middle. The ending is great. It really picks up. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of heart. My heart stopped a few times. I think it is a wonderful piece of Star Wars media. I think it's great. I think it's not as good as Mandalorian, but better than Boba Fett is where if we're gonna give it some Star Wars TV show rankings. So some very high like from me for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Andrew, did you like Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah, I'm about in the same kind of boat and vibe as you. I'm a really like. I liked it a lot. I do think that, yeah, there's definitely like a little bit of tightening up that could be done here and there, 1 or 2 things that didn't quite work. But for the most part, like I had a really fun time watching it. I think the performances are phenomenal across the board. I think visually most of it looks really good, and there's just a lot of nice stuff in there. And yeah, I agree with you that not maybe as good as the first season Mandalorian, better than Book of Boba Fett if we're kind of putting it all in there. And I think it adds like a lot of richness and context for a lot of Star Wars is struggling to find the in-betweens where they can still tell stories that are meaningful in areas of time that we already know the gaps. And I think this does a really good job of that, of telling a meaningful story that adds value, that doesn't detract, but also isn't 100% canonically necessary either. So I think it actually does a good job of this balancing act of hitting kind of 3 different sweet spots simultaneously. So a lot of respect for the show for that.
I completely agree. It's one of my biggest notes is that this adds to the Star Wars canon and like takes nothing away from anything. Like it doesn't bring up like a weird like, well, why did they do this in episode 4 then? It doesn't add anything silly that's going to cause like continuity errors. It really does work with what it's given continuity wise and just build on the lore and the characters and fill in the gaps. And I'm like, and the gaps were filled in really well.
Yeah.
Excellent gap filling.
Yeah, I think so too. I would kind of put this in the same realm as like Rogue One, which
I was
is
also gonna say Rogue One.
yeah,
Yes.
which is a movie as we've discussed before. Like it gets consistently better on rewatch, and I think we were all kind of too harsh on it when it came out. But it is that nice like. It doesn't add midichlorians or anything that like harms the lore, how you think about things, and yeah, it's just good. It's just good.
It's just good.
It never quite gets like to the point of love or like an obsession or something that I'm like running to the TV to watch every week. But I really enjoyed every episode.
Yeah, I will say there's moments that are like a love and a like kind of burn into your brain that are very, very good. Just very like, ooh, that's a Star Wars moment. But yeah, overall, it doesn't reach a love.
Interesting. Yeah, I can really only think of one that you might be referencing. I would say, like for me, there was really only one where I'm like, wow, that's very well done. But yeah, I can see that. And can it be spoiled?
I would say yes. It can be spoiled. I actually am really glad I didn't really even check the cast list before we watched this and had some really nice surprises about what this show was even about, honestly.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I also didn't know much going in. There were a few refreshing surprises. I think nothing that like is nothing that was earth-shattering as a surprise for me, but definitely a few moments that I didn't see coming that were like, oh, that colors the characters in an interesting way, or that was a little bit unexpected, and sometimes even from like side and tertiary characters. So I think that like if you can go in blank, it's good to go in blank, but it's not the be-all end-all, but it is good to see with a blank slate, I think.
Yeah, I think it's more enjoyable with a blank slate, but like we both said, like this changes nothing about the canon or anything. So like there is no huge like, whoa, every Star Wars is different now because of this thing. It is just like, this story's better if you don't know anything about it.
I fully agree.
Yeah. Look at us.
Well, before we get into the spoiler-filled section, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, one of our wonderful sponsors of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Masterclass.
Oh my goodness, over at Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn. I took a Matthew Walker course, The Science of Better Sleep, and it is these great little, like, your classes are just 10 to 15 minutes long. You take them in chunks. You watch them whenever you feel like it. You can watch them all at once. You can watch them just a few at a time. Oddly enough, for a series about sleeping better, I stayed up kind of late because it was so intriguing learning about all the different things that affect your sleep and your REM sleep and
What a catch-22.
I know. So, the Matthew Walker, my instructor, would probably be very disappointed in me, but I had such a great time.
I'm sure they have classes that can teach you about the psychology of the catch-22 that might be. But they have lots of classes. If you want to, you can learn skateboarding from Tony Hawk. You can learn voiceover acting with Nancy Cartwright, which is one that I was watching and taking, and I absolutely love. And on top of the like incredible instructors and the classes and everything that they have, it's very well structured. It's very well executed. That is one thing that I love about it, that you're able to take notes within the app as well, and just the organization of it, and not having a cloud document, a physical notepad, 9 other things where like if you're that type of learner, which for certain knowledge I am, where I'm like I want to get it all down and cross-reference and go back to it, and they've provided all of the infrastructure that you need built right into their app or web page that allows you to just do it smoothly and easily.
It is incredible that the app is so good at like taking notes and showing your classes and watching them easily, but also the production quality of the videos and the classes themselves are also incredibly high and well structured. Everything is a top-notch product.
Yes, it absolutely is. And it's nice because it gives you also the option of doing like, you can do bite size, you can do like 10 minutes at a time, you can sit down for a longer session. It's really comfortable, it's up to you, and you can be as attentive or curious as you might choose to be. You might feel like just kind of like, hey, maybe you're not going to learn how to do a kickflip, but maybe you're not physically going to do that, but you're like, what does Tony Hawk have to say about it? Let your curiosity shine through, and that's the fun thing about it. So we highly recommend you check it out. Get unlimited access to every masterclass, and as a Talk from Superheroes listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/TFS now. That's masterclass.com/TFS for 15% off Masterclass. And thank you for your support, Masterclass.
Thank you so much, Masterclass.
And now let's get into the spoiler-filled section of the episode. Let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Kenobi.
right, so we have seen all of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We are now in the spoiler-filled section. So we're gonna talk about all of the things, all of the canonical tie-ins, of which we're neck deep in Star Wars here at this point, of which there are many, I would think, or as much as you can jam into something without it being just totally bloated and self-referential. But I'm glad that you liked it. I had a good time with it. I'm glad you did too.
I really liked it. It felt very accessible, like, because there's like so much, like, especially like animated Star Wars that is getting like a lot of like love these days. I was like, and like I know the Clone Wars were so beloved, and that's kind of like what would fit in here. I was like, oh man, are they gonna like do a bunch of stuff? I don't know. But it really is just like, if you watch the movies, you will love this. You will follow it, and it will be very rewarding. Like, you will finally think the prequels are good. And it does an incredible job of being like, weren't the prequels good? And you're like, maybe they were good. This story's good.
I'm 100% with you on that. It recontextualizes the prequels, which is something that the Disney Plus shows have been doing for a little bit. I can't remember if it was, I think it was season 1 of Mandalorian on the podcast. We were talking about how like one of the characters was like remembering the Clone Wars, and they were like hiding in a garbage bin as like droidicas were going through the street. And like all of the droids from the Clone Wars, which as we saw in the prequels came off as very like silly. Even the dangerous ones felt unimposing. We're talking about like Roger. Like they're nerds. They're nerds. Even the tough ones are nerds.
But they didn't feel real and dangerous.
But then when they had this like flashback on Mandalorian of like, I was hiding in a garbage bin and some of the battle droids were coming down the street, it was like, holy shit, you've changed the sound effect, the lighting, the texture, and it's still the same thing, but recontextualized. It's now so terrifying. And even with this show starting, it starts with kind of a like summary of the prequels. They have like a previously on essentially for episode 1, or for like part 1 of the series. They have a previously on to kind of give you a summary of the prequels. And God, editing is so important, because watching that summary of the prequels, there was straight up a minute where I was like, man, these movies look fucking good. I'd like to see these movies.
I want to watch that movie.
Yeah, it looks so much better. And I know a lot of the times on the podcast, and we talk about how important editing is, both story editing and the physical act of like splicing the clips together and practical editing. Editing is so important, and this previously on wrap-up is such a great example of how you can make things look really good with good editing.
Yeah, I mean, also, it's like all the best bits. It's only like 3 minutes long, but it's still really highlighted. It highlights the story of Anakin and Obi-Wan so much better than the movies ever did with their extended length. Mm-hmm. But also just, like you said, like things look different. It is so nice to see like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan it look more like an episode 4 than a prequel, because the prequels are so shiny, they're so bright, they're so CG. This is like, oh, he's dirty. Yeah. He gets to be dirty and lit with sunlight, and he's not on a soundstage the whole time. It's just like, oh, you deserve this, Ewan. And it feels like Star Wars still, and it feels like the Star Wars you wanted to make originally, and I'm very happy for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it feels. But it still feels like it's part of the prequels, I guess, because Ewan's back.
Oh, it does, and it feels like part of the prequels. It feels like, and I know a lot of people love the animated stuff, but this is kind of, I would even say, to go back to something you kind of glanced upon at the beginning of the episode, is that this might even be a good entry point for someone who doesn't know that much about Star Wars, which is weird to say for something that's self-referential, and you're never going to find anyone who knows nothing about Star Wars. But you don't need to be neck deep in lore to kind of go into this, because it is taking a lot of the prequels, the Clone Wars. It is taking a lot of the subtext that fans have implied and that animated shows have expanded upon, and things that didn't quite work but were almost there, and re-exploring and recontextualizing them and telling a very kind of character-driven, performance-driven story for Obi-Wan, for Leia, and you're also getting Leia as a new character, as like a literal child in this world, as a perspective of the audience in many regards. So I think that this does a really good job of being like, here are a lot of ideas that the prequels and animated stuff has had that we are now going to really zone in on, but from minute one, as if maybe you don't have an emotional attachment to these people.
I can kind of get where you're coming from. Yeah, without the recap, I think it would be difficult. But like, yeah, even just on its own, it's as my one complaint was, it is a pretty straightforward story. Darth wants to kill Obi-Wan. They kidnap Leia because they know he knows Leia. It's really, that's what the 6 episodes are about.
Right.
I mean, Reva's trying to kill Obi-Wan because Darth wants to kill Obi-Wan, but that is the basic crux of it. It's like, yeah, it's pretty easy to follow. That's not like, well, the Trade Federation has taxes.
Right.
It's nothing like that. It
Right.
is just a revenge tale and a running away tale.
And I think at its heart, that's when Star Wars works its best. That's what the
absolutely.
original trilogy is a very straightforward, like, I've got a bigger gun than you, don't take my gun away, now I'm going to chase you to get revenge. It's a very straightforward piece.
The best Star Warses are about rescuing Leia.
Yes.
That's all you gotta do.
Yeah.
You rescue Leia, and she's a badass the whole time about it.
Yeah, you attempt to rescue Leia only to find out that Leia has been rescuing herself the whole time.
And then she rescues you.
Yeah.
And it loops back around. It's a Leia loop, if you will.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to love. Right off the top, I have a silly one. It's gonna sound silly. I have to say this, but like it's gonna sound silly, but I mean this as an actual compliment of the show. Of like, right in the first episode, we get like super broken Obi-Wan. It's been 10 years. He's busted. He's emotionally wrecked. And I loved that his commute to work sucked.
Like 3 transfers.
It was the realest thing Star Wars has ever done. Because who hasn't had a shitty commute to work when they've been like down on their luck and it sucks? And like Star Wars is so like good Star Wars is so like, this speeder is real and we busted it up and the paint's bad. And seeing Obi-Wan take a bus from the meatpacking plant into town, having to get on his space camel and then leave town because he doesn't live in town. He lives way out in the boonies. I'm like, your commute sucks, Obi-Wan. I feel this.
Very real for a shitty place to live. Very
real.
Very real, hilarious, embarrassing. Just get your own speeder, Obi-Wan, at this point.
Man.
Come on, my dude.
He can't take his camel all the way to work. The bus doesn't go to his house.
No, it's a mess.
It's a hilarious but like real mess. You're like, man, you were a general in an army and you can't get a direct line to work.
They execute a very good job in this series of showing how inefficient and inconvenient the Outer Rim planets are. To be like, this is not the best and most convenient way to live, for sure. There are no luxuries of almost any kind unless you are a criminal or a gangster or someone who has accrued wealth in an illegitimate way. Like, it is not a comfortable life for anyone. And I think that that's very good. And I think that that is to kind of like revisit some of the prequel stuff again. What this show does really well is the juxtaposition of these poor Outer Rim planets to the wealthy galactic empire, like the center planets of like, we cut to Alderaan and it has that prequel vibe without looking shitty or too shiny. I think it is the kind of energy and visual juxtaposition that they wanted in the prequels with that Star Cruiser that Amidala has, that one from Naboo that's pure silver.
The Nubian that's just so reflective and
that on just a dusty, shitty planet buying parts for a pod racer, I think was meant to be, or maybe this is just, as a fan overlooking into it, a juxtaposition of wealth to the impoverished, and to be like how ludicrous this looks in this place. But it just looks dumb, whereas this cutting between two different places does a good job of juxtaposing different lives in the galaxy without making one look like a CGI Jetsons cartoon, No,
Alderaan still felt very real, but you could feel a lot more the imbalance of wealth and life, because we're not going to get too much into the prequels, but even in the prequels, like, as much as like we're like, these people are poor, I'm like, Anakin and his mom took in 3 strangers and had enough food for supper for them, and like, that's not that high a bar. But they had a nice house too. Like, it didn't feel like they were struggling. He's building droids and pod racers and he's got a nice life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel like Obi-Wan alone in a cave that has no doors and literally no stuff. Like, that's pulling 2 transfers to the meatpacking plant.
Yeah.
That's poor. Yeah, it feels so different. And watching like Leia like get dressed with her servants, like there is definitely a rich feeling that feels actually rich and not like we just CG'd a shinier planet.
Yeah, and then also Leia's disdain for it as well. I think is
nice.
Great. This is such a great writing of Leia from an early age to be like, I am a fuck you. I don't take your shit. The system is broken the way it is. It makes it seem inevitable where her character ends up.
I have so many good things to say about this Leia, about writing, about performance. It is all so good. She doesn't want to be part of this like royalistic life, but she kind of has to like, she goes on this great journey of like finding out how you can fight, but also you need to be in a position of power to make real change. And she's got to find this compromise of like, I'm going to be a leader, but I've met this rebellion now and I've got to do this. But rebellions need leaders. So like, you really do see how she is going to become Leia. And you're like, of course. Oh my God. It's all there. But then also just the subtle bits about like her force powers are clearly there. And like she's clearly like reading people's emotions, even if she's not aware that she's reading their emotions. But then there's this one episode where she learns she has to hide it because force sensitive people are killed. So it explains why she never really explores her powers in any of the movies later on. Like this adds to canon so well without changing anything that's important. It's incredibly well-crafted Leia story. Maybe better than Obi-Wan's story.
When she smacks down that kid in that first episode where she's just like, you're just regurgitating talking points your father has, you're afraid of having any real opinions. I forget all of it, but she obliterates that kid.
Oh, she kills that kid.
And I'm like, that is so powerful and is such a good character piece.
If a child or an adult ever just like appraised me like that, I would crumble to the floor in tears.
Oh, yeah.
I have never had an original thought. You're right. I would just cry on the floor.
She absolutely wrecked him. And they did such a good job in this show as well of, even though all of these character traits that remain with her through adulthood in this series are there, they are a little bit like 30% more malleable because she is a child, where there is this indomitable spirit. I see something that I think is unfair, and I am going to stand up and immediately say something about it with no hesitation. Or I'm not going to but I'm also not going to let people boss me around and tell me what to do. But there are moments like in episode 2 when she's like running away from Obi-Wan, and when she sees like her first true danger, and I think gets the implication of it, and then has a moment of collapsing back into just being a child, like any other child, afraid and scared in a moment of peril. So they do a really good job of giving her all of the characteristics of adult her, but not simply writing a child like an adult. Writing a child who you can see the adult they're going to evolve into, but in moments of terror or stress or things that a child would actually have great difficulty with, does fall back into being a representation of fear and innocence in childhood. Yes,
it's so good. It is not just a 20-year-old Leia who's half the size. It is a 10-year-old Leia. She is growing. You can see who she'll become, but she will just cry in an alley after she has like seen someone explode and be like, I'm sorry, I ran away. I thought danger wasn't real, basically, because she would just leave the castle all the time, or fortress. I don't know where she lives.
No.
A house.
Yeah.
wherever she's hanging out. And also just like the other little thing I like that adds to canon is I feel like everyone always gets hung up on episode 6 where she says, I barely knew my mother, or I barely remember her.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, she died when you were born. You can't remember her at all. But I feel like she like sees glimpses of Padme in Obi-Wan's mind is what's happening.
Oh.
And I think she gets like a couple memories.
That's an interesting interpretation.
I'm going to reach and say that one.
I think that I didn't see that. I'm glad you did. It might be a reach, but I'm glad that was there for you. It just wasn't there for me.
Yeah, especially on the scene when they're on the truck and he's like talking about your mother. He's like, I knew her and everything. So
that was a beautiful scene as well.
Oh my God, there's so many beautiful scenes.
The Godfather-like quality that Obi-Wan has with her throughout this series is very touching. And it's also just like a moment of responsibility for a man who feels this incredible guilt over he feels like he let down Anakin and that he caused this and allowed this to happen. So he feels a guilt over orphaning her, but also a responsibility and pride of a godparent. So there's a lot of complicated feelings, and Ewan does a really good job of playing all of those levels as well.
So many levels, because I think even on top of that, there's a third level of I have to protect her, but also I'm no good anymore and I'm not good at protecting, because he also tries to just pawn her off on people on his first opportunity. Like, he's like, Darth's gonna kill me. Tala, you have to promise me you'll save Leia. And then he doesn't die. And then he's like, another thing happens. And he's like, no, Darth's gonna kill me. Kumail, you have to promise me you're gonna get Leia. And he's like, but it's not cowardly. You can tell that it is just a self-esteem, like, she's better off without me, even though I've saved her like twice now.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to this performance. And also I have to say, Vivian Blair, who plays little Leia. Oh my God. What a little powerhouse.
Phenomenal.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
For a girl who's like too young to to have any nostalgia for Star Wars because you're only 10, to get it, like, wow.
I felt the soul and energy of Carrie Fisher flowing through this child.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm like, I feel like when the cameras aren't rolling, this child might be chain smoking and ghostwriting other films. Like, this Carrie Fisher is in you right now. That is so impressive and wildly just an incredible performance.
Impressive or scary? Because, like, you've really got me on the Carrie Fisher Force Ghost now. Like, we never see a Leia Force Ghost, but I would believe one just goes into this kid when they say action every scene. It's just like, I know how to play Leia. I got this. She is incredible. Yeah, just the strength without being, like, annoying. Like, because, like, pretentious kids are annoying. Like, but not this one. She's, like, got this, like, quiet, like, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. A strength and a wisdom, but, like, she's also got compassion and empathy, which helps. She's not just like a kid who thinks she knows best. She's like, and also I care. Wonderful.
Absolutely wonderful. One thing we did touch on a moment ago that I do kind of want to revisit, that I don't know if it's fucked up or powerful, that I think Obi-Wan has and continues to have through into the original trilogy, a death wish.
Ooh.
So there is a sadness that he has, that I think he feels he needs to provide some kind of a penance, some kind of a sacrifice in order to redeem himself. I think he almost views himself as a Sith, someone who can only be redeemed by their own death in action. And I think that is why it's always like, Leia, go with them, I'm going to draw out the Inquisitor. Leia, go with them, I'm going to draw out Darth Vader. I think that in his battle with Darth later in this series, and with the Inquisitor, and then with Darth in A New Hope as well, I think that this is him wanting to die for what he's done. I don't think that this is him, like, at any point in this series being like, I've got to save Anakin, or I've got to stop Darth Vader, or in New Hope being like, I need to die to give inspiration to Luke Skywalker. I think it is like a man who wants to die, who is going on suicide missions because he feels like that is the only way he will ever redeem himself for what he's done.
I will agree with that for, I would say, 90% of the show. I wouldn't agree for A New Hope, because he very clearly states, like, he seems to be quite optimistic at that point. He very clearly states, if you strike me down, I will become stronger. He's going to help Luke as a ghost. He's like, I'll just be a ghost helper. I don't need to physically be there. I've learned from Qui-Gon how to do it now. But for the first 90% of this show, though, he absolutely does. He seems, when Vader, like, gets him in the desert and, like, is like one-on-one, even though Obi-Wan is running away, he also seems oddly relieved, like, that this will be over.
Yeah.
There's definitely, like, I need to die to redeem myself, or
to
I just have nothing left to give.
And I think it's a bit of everything. I think he feels that he failed the Empire, Anakin, his friends, his family. I think he feels like he failed everyone, and he needs to atone for that. That he has no strength to continue the fight to a point of like just to go on. to continue protecting Luke or just to exist on a day-to-day basis. There is an intense depression and darkness that follows him through this show without being distracting or tonally overwhelming. I think it is a very well-written level of subtext, but it is a very dark, emotional journey that this character is on. It
is. It never feels like kind of like what some people make fun of, like it's like a man pain story. It's just a man in pain, but like it is a man in pain who is like working through it, but also drowning in it.
Yeah.
And doing his best, but he is not getting better. He is not recovering in any way until this show, literally, he gets like called into action by Bail Organa.
Yeah.
It's an incredible story.
Oh, Jimmy Smith sneaking around everywhere.
Oh, who doesn't get a little lift when a call from Jimmy Smits? If Jimmy Smits called me, depression lifted.
I love that he's like one of the actors from the prequels that everyone's like, well, we got to keep Jimmy around. Like, it is nice to see a situation where it's like, well, we got Jimmy right. We don't need to write out Jimmy.
We need to keep Jimmy around. Make sure he gets a scene in Rogue One. Make sure he just kind of creeps into that shot in Rogue One.
Stick him on in there. It's our buddy Jimmy.
Everybody loved Jimmy Smith.
Fucking everybody loved Jimmy.
Honestly, this is the thing that also makes A New Hope better, is that when Alderaan blows up, I pretty much never feel anything. Knowing Jimmy Smits is down there, it honestly completely changes the scene. It's like, no, Vader, don't blow up Jimmy Smits.
The vibes are different.
The vibes are different because 3 million people or billion or however many it is too many.
Yeah.
But like
to
Jimmy
even
Smits,
to even emotionally process, it's too many.
Yeah. But Jimmy.
There's Jimmy.
Bail Organa just died.
You don't want that.
Unless he was with the rebels.
You gotta hope.
Well, I mean, he was organizing, getting the plans. He might have been off planet.
That's true, but we never see him in that original trilogy.
We never hear from Jimmy again.
I think he went down. He was in Alderaan places.
Oh, that's a great joke.
That's an old Star Wars street joke.
Still.
I can't take credit for it. That's been out there on the street.
But you're out on the streets.
I'm out on the streets. Well, let's take a quick break in the episode to thank one of our other wonderful sponsors of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at TeePublic.
teepublic.com. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got tank tops, they got stickers, they got mugs, they got anything you want to get a cool nerdy design on. And these nerdy designs are made by nerds like you, who are also good artists, in case you aren't a good artist. But if you are a good artist, made just like you.
Made just like you if you are a good artist. If you're not made the type of things that it made how you would make it in your mind, because your mind has limitless potential. So let's all agree on that.
We all believe in your limitless mind.
We all believe in our limitless potential. And over at teepublic.com, they're making that limitless potential a reality, because all of these designs are submitted and created and submitted by independent artists who are getting commission for their work. So when you buy something from there, you support the artist who designed it. And as well, when you buy through our store link, you also directly support this podcast as well. So you get to support 2 creators when you buy a cool shirt, laptop case. Diana mentioned all the things, and there's many other things. Whatever it is that you buy, you support 2 different creators. You get a good product, well made, well priced, shipped right to your doorstep. Designs like the one that I'm liking this week is Visit Tatooine is the shirt. And it's just like a nice little like tourist kind of shirt, like the type of thing that you'd get like that's like Visit Florida, but it's like it's Tatooine. It's like the 2 suns are setting. And it's just like a cool, casual. I like a tourism shirt for within fiction.
It is more casual. It seems like one of those ads where you want people to film there.
Yes.
Like, look how beautiful Tatooine is.
Tatooine has film credits.
I mean, it does.
Yeah, they said enough Star Wars stuff on Tatooine that they must have some kind of a film credit.
And it's a beautiful shirt, just of the 2 sons of Tatooine. My shirt is, it's the different star. It is a Star Trek shirt, because I love this shirt. It is a coffee mug with a Star Trek symbol on it, and it says energize, and there's like the transporter images above it, because you need coffee to energize you, and I like Star Trek and coffee.
It's a double entendre, you see. And is it?
Energized,
yes.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it means 2 things in this scenario. That's the correct use of double entendre, right?
I thought you were referencing the fact that I like coffee as a double entendre and not the word energized. But the word energize is a double entendre.
Okay. You know when you use a word and you're like, I'm using that word right, and then someone else makes a face, and I'm like, I guess I didn't, but I did.
You nailed it.
And those are the kind of shirts you can get at teepublic.com. So what you're going to want to do is head over to our store link, which is at teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That is teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. Shop around there. When you go to that link, you'll see the ones we just mentioned, as well as other ones we've mentioned on the show, ones we like ourselves. You'll see our whole storefront, or you can just search and shop around the whole site, and anything that you purchase will support the show, will support this podcast, and the artist who created the design. And thank you, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you so much, TeePublic.
And now let's get back to Obi-Wan.
We will get back to
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we've already talked so much about Obi-Wan, and I'm so sorry, but I just need to say about Ewan one more thing, is that he does such an incredible job of Obi-Wan's arc. Like, I feel like other actors wouldn't look at the whole season of like how this character is arcing like episode by episode, but Ewan McGregor really looked at the whole season. He was like, this guy is broken, and he is going to very slowly re-become the Obi-Wan we know from the prequels and the one we'll meet in episode 4, and just very slowly get his lightsaber skills back, get his hope back. Like, he looks older at the beginning of this show than he does at the end. Like, he's like rejuvenated and his spirit's back. And it is such a slow progression. It is not a show that has one big moment where he's back to being Obi-Wan. It's not like, I saved Leia and now I'm 100% where I was again. It is always a slow progression of like slightly getting better, slightly getting better, slightly getting better. And I think that's a harder acting challenge. And Ewan did an incredible job.
And he also did an incredible job as well with the fact that he's always getting a little bit better whenever he's around people, and he seems to be failing when he's alone. And it really just goes to show that like it's this reluctant falling back into a leadership position, to the point where like that episode where they're in the hangar and trying to get things working, I felt like he was milliseconds away being like when someone called him Obi-Wan, that he was milliseconds away from being like, it's General Kenobi, get those doors. I felt like he was right back in it. But then the second he has a quiet, contemplative moment, he falls into this depression and this sadness that he has by himself. And I think it really goes to show that this is a character where like that is his problem, is that this is a man who shoulders other people's burdens. And post-war, he doesn't have anyone left in his life to shoulder his. Mm-hmm. He has no support system left. He doesn't have any friends or family. Everyone's gone. But as soon as he's around other people to fight for or people to talk to or sound with, that's what he needs. He needs other people around, and he just doesn't have those he can trust in his life. But he's accidentally letting his guard down when he's being around them. And I think that as an actor, performing accidental trust in a performance is a very difficult thing to do, and it's something that Ewan McGregor accomplishes in this series with Obi-Wan. That is just an incredibly challenging thing for an actor to do something and not make it look purposeful. And it's very well done.
He definitely does. When in acting school, we have a thing called being caught by it. You have to be caught by it. You have to be surprised as a character. And he is constantly caught by it. He doesn't see it coming in all the best ways. But also it's just very relatable, this character of like, how many times have like I been like alone in my room and I'm like, I'm so sad. And then I hang out with my friends and I'm like, oh yeah, this is better. But then the second you go back alone to your room, you're like, sad again. Like, yeah. You need people.
It's a very relatable story.
I think many people have been there. I know like not immediately, but like if the sadness is going to creep in, it's going to be when you're alone.
Absolutely. Not that there's anything wrong with having moments of sadness by yourself. We all need those moments from time to time.
You need those cathartic feelings, but
that's cyclical like the tide. The sadness creeps in the second that you go home alone. That is absolutely a relatable cycle of sadness that I think a lot of people have been through.
Yeah. So that's Ewan. I think I'm done on Ewan. He did great.
I fully get it. I do want to get into one negative for the show.
Hit me up.
The fans.
Shocking.
Star Wars fans as one of the negatives of the show.
Wait. Not these fans.
Oh, wow. What a bunch of trash people I'm assuming that the vast majority of our listeners know what we're talking about. If you don't, it is unfortunate that the actor Moses Ingram, who plays Inquisitor Reva in the series, received a bunch of racist comments, hateful comments, and terrible, offensive reactions from, and I'm using air quotes, Star Wars fans. which is just miserable, awful from, I want to say, from any community, from the human race as a whole. Yeah. I would blanket.
You hate to see it. Not in a completely non-joking way. It absolutely sucks. It's not the first time it's happened. Oh my God, who plays Kelly
Marie Tran?
Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah.
Kelly Marie Tran also had to get off Instagram when she was cast in Last Jedi. Like, it is very cyclical of these fans. It's awful. It shouldn't happen. Like, Ewan McGregor and all of Star Wars Twitter, like official Star Wars Twitter and everything, shouldn't have to put out messages that say, don't be racist.
Yes.
It's 2022 and you're Star Wars fans. Are you rooting for the Empire? What is wrong with you?
And they are. And they are.
And they don't want to. And the Empire's cool.
And they don't want to admit it. Well, I want to talk about that in just a second.
Yeah,
but like the thing that, like, anytime I feel like we ever give Disney credit, it is credit for doing the bare minimum after they've done less than that. So I don't want to be that person who's like, kudos to you for doing the bare minimum too late. But it does feel like Disney and the people behind these projects now are more willing to stand up for their actors, which they should have always had that position.
Absolutely.
And I think that it is a very reasonable reaction when the fans are like, where the fuck were you for Kelly Marie and John Boyega? Like, where was this level of defensiveness over your stars, over your talent, over human beings who deserve basic dignity and respect? But that they missed the ball on that. Things are changing a little bit, and I think that partially due to the fact that Ewan McGregor is an executive producer on this and has power, and Disney at large maybe is, and most corporations don't give a fuck. But Ewan coming out and being like, no, you don't get to say that. You don't get to react like that. You are not fans. You don't get to treat human beings like that, no matter. Ewan coming out and standing up for his stars and being an executive producer, standing up for the people who are in the project he's making was so important, was so valuable, and I really respect that. I saw one tweet, and I can't remember who to credit it to, but it was just a funny one that was like, if Ewan McGregor personally told me I disappointed him, I would never use the internet ever again. Like, that, you're a failure as a person. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, if you are, and like, it's such a power move, because if you are being terrible to Moses Ingram because you're excited for this show and thinks she's bad, and then the lead of the show, Obi-Wan Kenobi, your hero, says you're bad, then, my God, guess who wins that argument? Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Here's the thing that bothers me about this fan reaction, especially because silly me, I don't forget there's racists, but I'm like, are we done yet? Every time, like, you gotta be. There's people in every color in Star Wars, guys.
I understand. Yeah.
Because if there was going to be any backlash of Obi-Wan, I thought people were going to be not excited about Hayden Christensen. Famously not liked in the prequels.
Right.
But instead, all the air quote fans were like, yeah, Hayden Christensen's back, the guy we don't even like. And we're terrible to Moses Ingram.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any, and I'm not saying we should shit on Hayden Christensen, but yeah.
No, don't do that either.
Yes.
But if anyone was going to get like flame warred, I thought it would be Hayden's return.
And I think where a lot of the Moses stuff kind of goes into, and I know we're kind of talking about bigger picture, broad strokes of fandom and Star Wars and everything that's going on here, and we just want to spend a minute or two on this, is that I think that Star Wars has a problem right now, and actually it extends to other fandoms, because I feel like there's been recent incidences with The Boys, the Amazon TV show The Boys, and other properties, where it's like, here is a group of people that you should not relate to, that you should not think are cool, and in Star Wars, that is the Empire. Fans who are shitty people associate too much with the Empire. Star Wars as a property is like, well, we have to make the Empire cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Star Wars, I get what you're saying. There is kind of, in recent years, in the new sequels in the show, and I think in most of the shows, there's been a real denazification of the Empire.
Yes.
They're very much just like, they're bad guys, but they're not Nazis. And it's like, no, they're Nazis. More POCs and everything, really, across the board, except the Empire. They can, obviously, roles in Star Wars. You should be rebels. You should be heroes. You should be bounty hunters. Like, you can even be bad guys. The Empire is Nazis. the Empire, and they just keep making the Empire more diverse. Like even back in Force Awakens days, Hannah John Kamen had a role as an Empire just commander.
Oh yeah.
And even back then, I was like, what?
And
Because Finn made sense because, the stormtroopers are like enslaved.
Yes, yeah. And I think that, depending on the generation of Star Wars, there could be something to say about that, where it is the era of the Empire is very much a puritanical oppression era. The era of the First Order is an era of enslaving and weaponizing the people that you've previously oppressed. And then you can then you can tell a story of like, what is it like for people of color within this fascist regime that depends on era appropriate, but they've really shied away from that because they don't want to offend any possible audience, which includes racists and terrible people, but don't placate your properties to that. Fuck those people.
No.
They shouldn't be watching this to begin with. If
Yeah.
you're a racist piece of shit, get out of here.
Yeah, the Empire should be the worst people, and
Yeah.
you should not want to relate to them.
I fully agree with this. Yeah.
So
I'm with you. And the one thing that I will say is that with Moses Ingram, who plays Inspector Reva, I think she does a phenomenal job. I think
great.
she is terrific. The only thing that I would like to get into the performance, I would agree with the fact that I'm like, I don't like her because she does too good a job of that character. Where I'm like, but that's a compliment. I mean, like, she is meant to be, especially in the first couple episodes we see her, this imposing, this kind of childish, petulant, which is also very Sith-like. She's no different than Kylo Ren's behavior and performance in all of the recent trilogy, where it's like, I deserve this, give me the thing that I want, I'm not listening, I don't care. And I'm like, oh, I hate this lady. But I should hate the lady. That's the job. It's almost like when I see like Lena Dunham in something else and I'm like, fuck you. And I'm like, oh no, you're not the character you played on Game of Thrones.
I was just about to say all the best Game of Thrones villains because I can't remember the little shitty boy's name.
Joffrey.
I
don't know the actor's name, but Joffrey.
Oh, yeah. Like you hated that guy, but you're like, you're such a good actor. I hate you.
Yeah.
And it is very similar. Yeah, she has this great ambition and drive that you're like, and like their willingness to step over her own bosses that you're just like, oh man, you are going to do anything. You're going to torture Leia. You suck. I hate you. But like great performance. Like
phenomenal.
She's crushing it.
I hate her for all the right reasons.
Yes.
For all the right reasons of a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, and she really builds into like better and better. Like when I really love the scene when her and Obi-Wan are talking through the wall.
Fuck,
that
that's
scene
good.
was incredible where he's like, you were a youngling. And she's like, where were you, Obi-Wan? I'm like, oh, this scene is so good.
When the lightsaber just pops through the blast door, it's like, oh shit, look out.
Yeah,
which is not how blast doors work, but that's just a whole nerd thing.
Yeah, Reva very much, even though she's using a lightsaber and not a gun, is like, and I came in blasting. Like she is. She leads with her lightsaber.
I enjoy the reaction of how emotionally closed off her character is, where it is in scenes like that where the second anyone like Obi-Wan is like, wait, let's talk about why you feel that way. It's like, shut up. It is
stab.
She is literally terrified of confronting her past and her own emotions. And we see that journey, especially with flashing back to herself in the end. But she is angry and afraid and absolutely scared of addressing any of the trauma from her past, which is why she's become this person, which is why that any of Obi-Wan's attempts to reach out to her with empathy just upset her further and push her even further, which I also think is a very, very traditional and excellent writing for Sith/dark side, which is why it's so difficult and rare for a Jedi to reach out and bring someone back from the brink, because any attempt at empathy forces someone from the dark side to confront the trauma of their past, which is just something that angers and upsets them because they're running from it. So it is this cycle of, by you trying to empathize with me, you are actually making me more and more upset with you. And I think that that's really good writing in this scenario, and it just kind of permanently works throughout Star Wars.
I think it works about like 85% of the time for Reva. I will say I didn't love this Luke thing at the very end with her.
I agree with you. I didn't love the Luke stuff.
I think the final scene where she decides not to kill him and breaks down and realizes she was becoming what she hated, like she was becoming Darth. That scene's incredible, but I didn't think she, even from what she saw in the message, I'm like, you didn't figure out that's Vader's kid. There wasn't enough information. Like, who do you think you're here to kill, and why are you here to kill them? What are your motivations?
And how did you beat them here?
Ooh, we'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, that whole story, the whole final storyline for her after she had a great fight with Darth. That fight with Darth was cool as hell.
Yeah.
But then her whole part on Tatooine, I was like, I don't care. I don't know what this is. And it's intercut with this incredible Obi-Wan Darth stuff that's happening. And I'm like, I don't care about Luke. You're not going to kill him. He's in the next movie. We get back to Obi-Wan and Darth.
And also, you've never been hunting Luke, and Luke's not really anything.
You don't know who he is.
And
All
Luke,
Jimmy Smith said in the message was, I'll watch over the boy. Like, what does that tell you?
Yeah. And I get that once you get there, that moment of Luke representing yourself, I think was a good metaphor, and it was just a little bit clunky in how it got there. But what we glanced on for a moment in there that I would like to discuss is like a weird thing this show does, which is the geography of shit just doesn't quite work or make sense sometimes.
I think Reva can fast travel.
She teleports.
She teleports in two different scenarios. Because the first one is Leia leaves like 15 minutes before her down that like escape tunnel.
Yeah.
And Reva gets to the plane first. And it's like, you were 15 minutes behind her, and there's no way to get to the plane except through the tunnel.
It's a tunnel underground. Like, it is a straight line tunnel underground. And Inquisitor Reva finds it and is like, I'm going to chase Leia down this. And then other shit happens, and it just cuts to Leia exiting, and Reva's there.
And it doesn't make any sense. Like, even if Reva, force runs and runs faster than Leia, when did you pass her?
You would have to, you would still grab Leia from behind.
You still would have gone past.
Yeah.
Like, what did you just get like a power up in like a Mario Kart scenario, and you were going too fast and you didn't even see her?
And even then, you would have to and other scenarios, it's like you would have to intuit where the tunnel exits, leave, take the long way around, then kill the guy who was watching the ship on the other side, then dramatically stand and wait for Leia to exit.
She did dramatically stand and wait.
The geography of that didn't make sense, as did going to see Luke.
Going to see Luke was way worse. Like, she'd been stabbed with a lightsaber in
Left 4 Dead,
and pretty much a killing death blow. Obi-Wan is still just seconds of still being chased by the same ship. It's been 10 minutes.
It is Darth Vader stabs her with a lightsaber. Obi-Wan flies away. Vader gets in his ship. Vader is now chasing the ship that Obi-Wan is on. Minutes have passed. Cut to Reva's now on Tatooine. What? A minute ago she was stabbed. She didn't have a ship. We're now on a different planet. On top of that, we're on a different planet where she is asking around. Like, she's doing detective work.
She's got to, get notebooks and, talk to people and hire a PI firm. She's got to walk out into the desert. They live really far away. She's got to get a space camel. She's got to take the bus.
Multiple transfers as we've seen.
She doesn't have a ship right now. She's taken the bus, and she got to Tatooine. And it's not even a thing where you can say it wasn't lined up, because we line up the timelines when Obi-Wan senses she's there.
Yes.
So we know that she has been there in the hour that he has been running away from Darth Vader.
And the other thing that makes it worse, and I know this is nitpicky, but this is
so jarring.
This is just small enough to be big enough, where she's there, she does the detective work, she finds out where the Luke is, then it is enough time to tip off Owen, for Owen and Beru to prepare a fight, to hide Luke, then to be like, she'll wait for sundown. Now we're waiting a half a day, a full day. There's 2 suns. Sundown doesn't happen fucking quick when there are 2 suns. Sundown is rare and takes a minute. So there is a full day-night cycle that she goes through on a whole other planet while we're having a chase scene away from the place where she just was. Mm-hmm. And that and the tunnel thing, and I think there was just a few others, maybe smaller ones throughout the series where it was oh, okay, you just kind of moved people to where you needed them to be. And I know that, sometimes you just got to do that for convenience or to keep things moving along, but you can give a little more care or thought to it.
Yeah, it really did feel like video game fast travel, and it was jarring. I didn't enjoy it.
I agree with you. I think the one brilliant thing that I adored and loved, that was the wow, I really like how you've done this, is the final battle between Vader and Obi-Wan. The half and half James Earl Jones, Hayden Christensen was perfect.
I think this is probably what you thought I meant when I said there was loving Star Wars moments in this, like a classic moment. This is what I meant overall. I think there's a couple other ones that are close, but this is the biggest one. Yeah, the mix of the two voices, just I killed Anakin. Even the dialogue is great. The fight itself is also awesome. What I love about the fight is you can compare it to the prequel fights, and they used the same moves. They definitely studied the stunt choreography of the first ones, and it's Ewan did that great behind the back block that I fucking love from Phantom Menace, and he brought it back and he became himself again, and it really was Obi-Wan versus Darth versus Anakin. But yeah, the half-cut face and the mixing of the two voices, it's brilliant metaphorically and also just in execution. It's haunting to watch, and you're also you are Anakin and you are Darth Vader. But you're Darth Vader, though. Yeah,
you are Anakin underneath it, and him having to see and having to confront that. And I think just as a performer as well, Hayden Christensen obviously had received so much criticism over the years for his performance, and I think a large part of that was due to the writing of the prequels, which is very stiff and awkward, and they never really had Anakin speak like how Darth Vader speaks. So there is this dissonance between two very different characters, which I understand that they're meant to be. Emotionally, they are two very different characters. But Darth Vader is very stiff and proper, which is not really how Anakin spoke. But this is a very nice melding where it's they found lines that worked for both interpretations of the character, which really, really pops as a performance, and having that cut in and out. And it adds a lot of life to this is the guy who's always under there.
Yeah, and for me, what actually was most important was the disconnect is very much James Earl Jones's voice is just so not Hayden Christensen's. It's this incredible deep baritone. Even though we know it's a machine doing that, being able to hear both voices intercut at any point makes it easier to believe that he's Anakin whenever he's in the suit and his voice sounds like James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
So it really gives it more credence to this is always Anakin, not this is Hayden Christensen and this is James Earl Jones, which is kind of what it feels like sometimes. But that one scene really helps meld the prequels and the OG trilogy together.
I agree.
Brilliant. And just lit by the lightsabers, and it was such a good scene. And
him just winning but showing mercy as well, which I think is he does it again with the Inquisitor with Reva shortly afterwards. But I think that is, and I've written about it before on FromSuperheroes.com. Check out the articles about the redemption of Sith versus Jedi in Star Wars, and it's not actually about whether or not the villain deserves redemption or forgiveness. It is about a true hero offering it even when it's not deserved. And I think that Obi-Wan's mercy to Vader, and that can be interpreted a lot of ways, also just a mercy or a denial or an unwillingness to accept what Vader just said, or not trying to live in absolutes and execute like the previous Jedi told him to. But then his mercy with Reva as well, like the importance of mercy and forgiveness for a Jedi, I think is a very valuable storyline that they kind of give him here.
It is very valuable. I will say there is a very silly parallel, though, in that Obi-Wan keeps letting people live for mercy, and Vader just keeps not checking his kills. Vader is just like letting his enemies live because he just isn't killing them. Like he's like, I'm gonna stab Reva. That's probably good, right? Walk away. And then he's like, I'm going to cover Obi-Wan with rocks. I bet that did it. Do. It's like, cut someone's head off, okay? Mm-hmm. Make sure they're dead. What are you doing? You're gathering enemies. You have to kill people who are trying to kill you.
That is true.
Unless this is just like some secret mercy that you're just not talking about, but I don't think it is.
I think there is an argument to be made there that like Vader is an irredeemable villain, as we discussed earlier, with blowing up Alderaan and the space Nazism of it all. But is lying to Obi-Wan in that scene and is still Anakin under there? Because Obi-Wan is very much like wanting to get Anakin back. Like there is a sense of desperation to be like, please be Anakin again. And Anakin kind of releases him to be like, you didn't kill me, I killed me, this is who I am. But as we see by the fact that he takes down the Emperor in the original trilogy and Luke doesn't give up on him, that Anakin was still in there to a small and certain degree, that maybe showing these small acts of mercy on his enemies, despite being an irredeemable villain, is the sign that Anakin is still under there in some small way. And even just visually representing that, like, he is still under there.
I can get behind that, because a third one that doesn't bother me as much but did still bother me was the very haunting scene where Anakin lights the sand on fire and drags Obi-Wan through it. This was the other scene that really got to me, of like, he's like, I want exact revenge. I want to light you on fire, not just I want to kill you. I'm like, oh, that's way darker than I expected. I thought you just wanted to kill him. But Obi-Wan escapes so easily. Like, one robot is shooting a blaster at them, and like all the Empire and Darth just scatter, and Obi-Wan is dragged away. But it's like, if these are small acts of mercy on Vader's part, it makes a lot more sense than him just continually letting his enemies limp away.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, and I think he is...
Especially if he remembers Reva as a youngling. If he's like, I gotta let one go.
There's something going on there. And I think even with the irredeemable acts that he has completed, like in the original trilogy, or especially in like A New Hope, Tarkin is meant to be the bigger villain than Darth. Darth is meant to be like the space wizard, where it's like, oh shit, wizards coming at you.
Look out for wizards.
Oh, look out for wizards. But he is just kind of an angry child with a personal vendetta. Like, he doesn't know why he's angry or what he's attacking. Like, Tarth is the face of the bureaucracy of this villainy that's kind of coming towards them. Tarth is the embodiment of the Empire, and Vader is really just kind of like a scary guy who's around, who's too powerful to tell to leave, but he doesn't seem to be aware of the inner workings of it. And I think, like, I never really get the impression that Vader knows the day-to-day or has a goal for the Empire. He's doing what the Emperor says, / being a petty little bitch for the rest of it, and that's just his life, you know?
Yeah, he never has any goals as Anakin. Yeah. Really, he lost all of his goals the second Padme died. Mm-hmm. He was like, I didn't have anything else I was going for. I wanted to be a Jedi Master, so now I guess I'm a Sith Master, and that's as high as I can get. I have no promotions to be had.
Yeah, he's just an angry, lost idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, who is an irredeemable bad guy, but isn't really that much deeper than just kind of an angry, lost child. Yeah. And I think the only thing about that last episode that it's lucky it worked. It was, I think, like a hair away from not, was the amount of shaky cam in that last episode. It's very strange that final episode where, like, we're going heavy on handheld, very shaky, and I'm not a fan of the style of shaky cam in general, especially for action scenes and fight choreography. I think that it was maybe 5 to 10% too much for my personal taste. I did like that how that made it distinct and different from what typical fights over the years of Star Wars has been, which has been very like locked down, steady cinematic shots. I like that it stands out. It's a little bit stylistically different, but it was also a little bit distracting. Not so much that it undermined what was going on, but I could have done with like 10, maybe 20% less shakiness.
I guess I get what you're saying. I'm iffy on this one, because I do like that it kind of lends to like desperation and personalness, and like you feel like you're there a little bit more. But I also love seeing choreography. Yeah. So I do love a mounted tripod to be like, we're going to do 18 moves in a row, no cuts. And I'm like, cool, do 18 moves in a row with no cuts.
I agree. And I think...
Do a flip.
Yo, Spider-Man, do a flip.
Do a flip and then block it and then do another flip.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think that is way better and way more impressive for fight choreography, but it's a little bit of kind of like cold mechanicalness that is a little bit too prequels. And I agree that the shakiness thematically meant something here, and it did represent the characters, but it's just something that I'm never quite a fan of.
That's fair.
Yeah.
A brief thing I'm a fan of. I'm pretty much done, but I think we would be remiss not to mention Kumail's amazing in this.
Oh, I forgot to mention Kumail. Of course, Kumail.
We can't forget to mention Kumail. He's everywhere. He's in Marvel. He's in Disney. He's in Star Wars. He's doing it all. I would love a Kumail spinoff. I think his character was so interesting. I think he did a great job. I couldn't believe he got to live.
Yeah, same.
Really thought he was gonna die.
I thought so too, but I guess they realized, as everyone always realizes, we need to keep Kumail around because we need more Kumail.
We need more Kumail. The Eternals needs more Kumail.
Yeah.
This needs more. Star Wars needs more Kumail.
He was like the one good part of Men in Black International,
Oh, yes.
if you remember.
A movie that has Chris Hemsworth as the lead.
Yeah.
And Kumail stole the show. And he was like a tiny little CG alien.
Frankly, I'm sick of saying it on this podcast. There should be more Kumail in everything. Get him way up on that cast list.
What is with this slow adding of Kumail? I need a big chunk of Kumail.
Give me a big old slice of Kumail.
I want a big old bite of Kumail. I'm sick of these tiny little nibs.
He just knows how to play it. He understands this, and I think it is because he is a wildly talented performer, comedian, writer. Like, he is a wildly talented artist who also has love and adoration for these things.
Yes, he does.
But he's not letting his love and adoration get in the way of a good performance. He's
No.
letting it feed into a better one. So, it's a perfect mix.
Yeah, he's not like, let me do a quick cameo. I love Star Wars. He's like, no, I want to be in Star Wars. But also, I think this was what, like, the first time, not the first time, but more so than other things, he's like so good comedically, but I felt his dramatic side come out a little bit more on this one. Like, I did feel like his character changed and wanted to be a Jedi. Like, I'm like, it was such a quick shift, but at the same time, there was a nice writing job there of, even though I'm lying about being a Jedi, I am still getting people across the border, and I'm like getting them out of town to the point where I'm like, why did you even lie about being a Jedi?
Yeah.
If you are just helping people escape.
He's chaotic good.
It's chaotic good.
He's chaotic good.
It's like, it's no fun if I just help.
Kumail is
Gotta pretend to be a Jedi.
Kumail is a man who understands where his character lies on a D&D alignment chart. And I'm going to say that there's like 4 actors in Star Wars who know where their characters align on a D&D alignment chart. And Kumail is one of them. And he's chaotic good. That's it. He'll lie, he'll cheat, but he's going to help out the good people. It's a Lando type of vibe.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a Han Solo type of vibe.
No, Han Solo doesn't know he's gonna help, but he knows where he lines up.
Yeah, more of a maybe a Lando more of a
Maybe
type
a
of
later
vibe.
Han.
Yeah, okay.
A movie 5 or 6 Han, not 4.
Yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah, late Han, mid Lando.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We did it. But anyway, Kumail was great, and I it's weird to end on Kumail for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but
No, it's not.
He needed to be talked about.
More Kumail. We should end on Kumail. You're correct. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? But before we do ask the final question, we want to thank our other wonderful sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Ghostbed.
Ghostbed. They are in mattresses and pillows made by Nature Sleep, an industry leader in the mattress space since 2001. They have the coolest bed in the world, and I love that because who wants to sleep too hot?
Nobody.
No sane person.
Nobody. They're designed specifically with cooling features. So it is just going to be in your mattress. It's ready to help you sleep longer at night, feel comfortable. It is the hot days of summer here, so you want a cool mattress. We've got the Ghostbed Pillows, which is nice because the cooling feature. I don't have to like wake up and give them the old flip in the middle of the night. We've all done the old flip.
Not anymore, but we've done it before.
We've done it before. We
Before
all
Ghost
know the
Pillows?
feeling of the flip.
Where you're like, this pillow's too hot.
Yeah.
My body heat has perforated the pillow.
I will say, I think after getting the Ghost Pillow for like the first couple of days, I did it out of muscle memory alone. Like I woke up and I'm like, gotta flip it, and then like there's part of me that's like half awake where I'm like, wait a minute, do I? Like, you need to recalibrate your body
in a good way.
To a good product.
Eventually, you recalibrate to stop flipping, and you just sleep better.
Then you're just sleeping better. And they have a 101 night at-home sleep trial. You can try it out for 101 nights. If you don't like it, you can return it and get your money back. There's no hard feelings. There's free shipping. There's 0% down financing. There's lots of fantastic features about Ghostbed that you'll want.
To find your perfect mattress, check out ghostbed.com/TFS. Right now, Ghostbed is offering our listeners 40% off Ghostbed bundles where you get a mattress and adjustable base, or 30% off site-wide. That is 30% off all mattresses and 2 luxury pillows. Use promo code TFS at ghostbed.com/TFS. Hurry, take advantage of these savings. That is ghostbed.com/TFS and use promo code TFS. And thank you, Ghostbed, for the cool sleep.
Thank you very much, Ghostbed. And as well, if you haven't already, this is your weekly reminder to please subscribe, rate, review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get this podcast. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us find new listeners. It warms our hearts. We notice the new reviews come in. It means a lot. And when you do that, it helps these algorithms recommend us to new listeners. And then when they find us, they're likely to check out those reviews, and it really does encourage people to actually hit subscribe, hit download, and give us a try. And while you're there, do it for a few different podcasts you know and love.
It really helps too, because it's good to have new reviews, because some places show you the dates on the reviews, and if people are like, these people aren't hip happening, they don't have any current reviews, but it's like, ooh, look at all these people who currently love talk from superheroes. If that's you, please go leave us a 5-star review. It would help us out so much.
Please do. And if you want to support the show monetarily, you can do that over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service where you can sign up at whatever it is you can afford. You can kick in $1 a month if you just want to help support the show, support the podcast, support the network. And at different levels, you can do $1, $5, $10, $20, however you can afford. You'll get different bonuses. At the $10 a month hero level, you get an exclusive episode of this podcast every single month.
Yes, and you get access to all the old episodes. I believe we are at 80 old episodes on
Quite
Talk
a few.
from Superheroes. Full-length episodes on a topic we never cover on the regular podcast. This month, we did Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. You're going to want to watch that movie and listen to that episode. We're just going to straight up recommend Chip and Dale right off the top here.
We're going to recommend it. You're going to want to go ahead and do both of those things. And as well, if you sign up, you can cancel in any given month, change your level. You can do yearly, in which case you get a month for free. So there's lots of different options. And if you just want to support us, you can do $1. And sincerely, those do add up. And if all of our listeners did that, it would sincerely change our lives. So have a look, check it out. Head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My change is slightly complicated. It kind of goes back to what I said in my spoiler-free review, where I thought this show kind of wasn't about enough, even though it is a good story about, like, the story of Obi-Wan. It really is just rescue Leia, she gets kidnapped again, rescue Leia, run away. That's kind of all that happens. I want a little bit more. I would really like, and Obi-Wan seems to... he finds himself while helping these rebels, but I don't feel like he helps these rebels. He kind of just brings trouble upon them with everything that he's doing. So I would really like it if Obi-Wan helps these rebels in some way with some kind of thing that they haven't been able to get around. Like, it could even be something as simple as, they've been waiting to leave in, like, the final episode. If Obi-Wan, like, blows up that entire base he's on that he rescues Leia from, and he's like, I've helped the rebels. This base is now exploded. Their escape routes are clear. Like, there has to be something that they need from him that they can't do themselves. I just need a little bit more of Obi-Wan kind of giving back to these rebels, where it seems like he is just bringing them trouble and taking. He's like, you have to help me save Leia. You have to give up starfighters to go get her. And Leia's cool, but he's risking hundreds of lives, and they don't know him, and he doesn't really give them anything in return. The moment where everyone is like, don't leave and sacrifice yourself is beautiful. I love that. But I would just like something in the story about a way he can help them and stop something that's been impeding their progress as rebels. Yeah, just a little thing to give it a little bit more oomph. Either blowing up the station, having some connections. I mean, he saved thousands of people as a Jedi. He should have more allies than just Bail Organa out there, like helping them find connections or a safe place to stay. Something like that to make it kind of a bigger story. That's but other than that, it's a great tale.
No, I like that. I like how straightforward it is, but I like your change. I think I can get on board with that. I especially like the idea that he needs to help them out a little bit more. Because as we see at the beginning of the series, when they're like, the Inquisitors are hunting Jedi, how they always get Jedi, and whether it's in this or the Clone Wars or the video games, it's like, I'm going to threaten some people, and Jedi can't help but to help. They have to help. And Obi-Wan is someone who has literally beaten that side of him out of himself. Like, he does not help.
He's going to let Owen die.
Yeah, and I would like to see that side come back to him a little bit towards the end. So, yeah, I can get on board with that, to be like, maybe he is just trying to look after Leia, but while he's there, he's like, I can't help but help. Like, to have that calling come back a little bit, it would be nice.
Yeah, because as much as he helps the rebels, it is really only to get Leia to safety.
Yeah.
And I think he needs to help the rebellion a bit more.
Them.
Help them in some bigger way.
I'm with that.
What would you change, Andrew?
No more Luke. No Luke.
Oh, yeah, we didn't need Luke.
100% no Luke.
Oh, he's got his little ship. Who cares?
Yeah, like, you can still have that, like, that touch of him from a distance in episode 1, whatever. Obi-Wan watches him through some binoculars. That's fine. That is fine.
That's old Ben Kenobi.
This final episode, Luke, yeah, that's old Ben Kenobi. That's classic old Ben right there. This final episode, Luke, get rid of it. Like, geographically, the location jump didn't work. It didn't also make sense that Reva was hunting Luke, where it's like she got that from the message, but also her goal was to get revenge against Darth Vader, and it was never actually to get Leia. Getting Leia was to get close to Darth to go in for a killing blow to kill Vader, who she knew was Anakin. So being left for dead by Vader and then being like, well, now I guess I'll kill Luke. It was a big character leap that didn't quite make sense. I think that, like, if she didn't go to Tatooine, didn't chase after Luke, I think we just flat out don't need any of the Luke stuff. Maybe she is continuing to chase Obi-Wan and Leia, or maybe that, like, after being injured or losing to Vader, she realizes that, like, there is no defeating Vader under any circumstance, and goes full evil, maybe, and is like, I'm going to go get Leia for the sincere purpose of getting Leia at this point. And then I think, like, her after Leia, which is a continuation, but now she's full evil, makes way more sense than just randomly going after Luke for no particular reason without having changed her motivations at all. So I think just a zero Luke, and especially for a series where it's like, this is about Leia. Leia is a personality. Leia is a character. This Luke is a child who actually, like, just does have a relatively innocent childhood, and we don't need to make everything about Luke Skywalker.
We don't need to make... Disney really wants everything to be about Luke Skywalker. Yeah, I like her breakdown at the end, but the whole going after him really just took away from the finale with Obi-Wan and Vader. So yeah, they needed a better ending for her, and Luke wasn't it.
But she could have that same breakdown chasing
going
Leia.
After Leia, yeah.
And that's what I think. I want that breakdown moment.
Because Obi-Wan left her. So like she's available to be chased again.
Absolutely. So I think that same breakdown, those same emotional beats carry and have more impact if it is Leia. It really felt like a last-minute Hail Mary to be like, oh, fuck, we didn't get a Skywalker! Like, it really felt like some, like, Disney execs screaming.
in this.
To be like, whoa, but where's the good Skywalker? They're gonna kill us! We gotta get a fucking Skywalker! It's like, no, you don't. Leia Organa is all we need.
Leia's enough. She's super cool. And also, the geography works.
Yes.
I would believe she could get to Leia that fast.
So that's my big change.
I like
it. Luke Skywalker.
Oh man, Disney's gonna come after you, babe.
They
What did you say?
But we need Luke Skywalker.
They're not gonna like that.
But we want to have Luke Skywalker. Is what they say.
They didn't de-age Mark Hamill this time.
No. Or Christensen, Hayden.
No, I meant like into like a 10-year-old boy.
Oh.
They would.
True. Yeah, they would. They didn't de-age Hayden, which I thought was lovely.
I actually thought
they're
that
just
was
like, he
nice.
looks a bit older, but you know that this is meant to be a flashback, so fuck you. And I'm like, perfect. That's exactly how acting works.
Here's actually the weirdest thing I found about not de-aging Hayden, and this is just a minor little thing, is they chose to set that scene when he was a full Padawan instead of like episode 2 or 3 when he's at least a master. Like he
Right.
had the little braid. I'm like,
Right.
it's cool that you didn't de-age him, but you could have made him at least a full Jedi. Like when he had the braid, he was like 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my only complaint. But
And
cool
also,
that they didn't de-age
also, he's just a thicker man as well, where
yeah.
it's like, it's not about like how old you look in the face or like wrinkles aside. I'm like, when you played that as a Padawan, you were like 110 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
And now you're a beefier boy. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm like, you got some hustle weight on you. You're a bigger, more muscular guy than you ever were then, and
Yeah.
that's fine and cool.
18-year-olds just don't have body mass.
Nah, you just don't
They're
got
just
it.
fly through the air. It's annoying.
Yeah, but I like not aging them. Just being like, yeah, that's what acting is.
The
and
first
that's
time
entirely
in
fine.
Star Wars history.
Good God, yeah, they did a robot Mark Hamill their like last series, so it was nice to see just Hayden Christensen being like, I'm here, I'm wearing a little foundation, and that's fine.
I've got a human face.
And I'm like, okay, cool.
Is this the power
Dope.
of the Ewan McGregor executive producer, I wonder?
I think it might be Ewan.
If it's you?
Ewan, you need to be. I know that you probably only have the time and interest to EP your own shit, but you got to start getting your hands in more of the dough, my dude. You got to get your hands in that pizza pie.
Yeah, I never want to see a deep fake anybody again.
Well, that's going to be it for this week. That's it for Obi-Wan Kenobi. We are going to be back next week talking about season 3 of The Umbrella Academy.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. And if you missed it, too, we had a chat with Tom Hopper and Robert Sheehan, who play Luther and Klaus on The Umbrella Academy. That is available as a bonus mini episode that you'll see in your feed, probably right below this one. It's also available in video or transcript on FromSuperheroes.com. But we'll be back next week talking about our thoughts on season 3 of The Umbrella Academy. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me online at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can reach me at Words of Diana.
And you can reach both of us at From Superheroes, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.